Hello, this is Grab the Remote. I'm Candler Budd, and with me, as always, is my man, my friend, my man friend, Mr. Brian Chapman. Brian, how are you, sir?
Always great. Great to see you, sir.
We're going to have so much fun tonight. Brian is going to share with me and you
Oh boy.
his list for greatest movie soundtracks. And he shared with me, he texted me the list a few hours ago. And Brian, I don't want to get awkward early on, but I'm a little disappointed that Superman 4: The Quest for Peace did not make the list.
Sorry. If it's only five, so that's six or seven. Superman 3 is in there as well. The Richard Pryor entry.
I think this means you're a warmonger.
Oh man.
Do you ever say war? Do you ever say the monger with any other word other than warmonger? Like you're never like you're a food monger.
Only as a joke. Like you use monger. Like we had this nice girl who used a lot of tape in high school, and she became the tape monger. That's a true story. So it's just that name should just be for fun.
I think I'm a carb monger.
Okay. Are you? Well, I don't know what kind of monger I am. I'm just a monger.
Yeah, just a monger.
So soundtracks. There's so many great movies, and with those comes great soundtracks. The first one that came to mind for me, Graduate, starring Dustin Hoffman, Anne Bancroft, Catherine Ross, etc. One of my favorite movies, certainly. And to me, it kind of goes into what Wes Anderson has been able to do, which is somehow, and I'm not an expert, but somehow they were able to take the music of Simon and Garfunkel and make it feel seamless.
I can't think of Simon and Garfunkel without thinking of The Graduate.
That's fair.
And I can't think of The Graduate without thinking of Simon and Garfunkel.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, if anything, I will say that Mrs. Robinson, the song is not really my favorite song. You know what I mean? Like I like many of the others, and that's just kind of
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. I mean, that's one of the greatest songs. Awesome.
Perfect. There's
April Come She Will.
Yeah. Go ahead without
April, when streams are right and swelled with rain. I mean, those two guys were just incredible.
Anything with, I mean, I think Paul Simon is probably his solo career was certainly better, but he is
certainly better than Garfunkel's. Yes, it was.
But yeah, Mr. Captain, I'm an obvious monger now. It's poetry, it's so beautiful. I would hate to have this conversation without talking about Mike Nichols, the great director of The Graduate.
Yeah.
And Buck Henry too, the writer. Both of those guys have passed, and just two brilliant guys that have everything to do with its success. Of course, Dustin. Scarborough Fair.
Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Awesome.
Can't think of the movie without the soundtrack, period.
Do you know anything behind the meaning of that song? Like, I'm totally showing my ignorance. Here I am. Like, why do they talk about all the spices?
Oh, gosh, parsley, sage.
I didn't know that until recently. When I say recently, like the last 10 years I was cooking, I'm like, wait a minute, they're talking about spices in that song. I was introduced to the song "The Sun Porch Cha Cha Cha" listening to the Graduate soundtrack. It's instrumental. It's awesome. It's hot. It's tight.
It's tight. Very good. Next is another one that to me I think this one's a little bit more suspect because it is a creature of the time period. It certainly was one of the. I mean, what is it? The most successful soundtrack of all time.
But it's like The Graduate. You were right in that time period. We're going from the late '60s. I assume Saturday Night Fever is next, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Saturday Night Fever is next. Sorry to jump you, and you're right there in the late '70s.
Yeah, 77. This was, to me, when you talk about the Travolta period, this 1-2 punch of Saturday Night Fever and Grease in that time. I mean, he just was. This was his little time period for movies. But the Bee Gees, we only have one Barry is the only one left.
4 brothers, 3 in the Bee Gees, but 4 brothers.
Staying alive no matter what decade or how you even feel about Saturday Night Fever, which is definitely a time capsule movie for many. The title cut Staying Alive will always, to me, hold up.
My favorite one is More Than a Woman.
How about this one? Let's talk about this. There's a funny episode of, this is a long time ago, Beavis and Butthead, a hilarious episode where you think they're going to make fun of the Bee Gees, but instead they don't know who it is and they love it because they're listening to Jive Talking. And
Jive Talking. That's a good one.
Jive Talking's, that's funky. Walter Murphy, Beethoven rolled over in his grave 1,000,000 times with a fifth of Beethoven.
Yeah.
The funky version of a fifth of Beethoven.
I barely remember the disco thing. Are you kind of in the same boat? You kind of remember it, or do you remember it at all?
I remember, but it's definitely the music. It is this humongous record.
Yeah.
Of Travolta on the disco floor with the Bee Gees in the background, all in their suits. Like the 2 of the guys are leaning up against the Barry.
And it was everywhere.
Yeah, so that album, you open that thing up and there's 75 pictures, right? Like that is indelible. So this one was with me just because I had it was in the record collection. Boogie Shoes is on here. You Should Be Dancing. How Deep Is Your Love? That little slower version.
You should be dancing. Yeah.
It's a big one. It's
a
big album.
And it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And then it kind of had like the backlash. There's a lot of disco 70s backlash. And then what happens is it all kind of comes around again. And of course, those guys are beloved. And, some of those songs you put them on, and no matter what, everybody likes all types of genres, right? Like you have musical likes in every genre. And of course, the disco era is going to have songs where like, yeah, I like this. Right? Even if you're in your car by yourself, like, yeah, this is on my list. This is on my playlist. Let me shift gears, going to number 3. I am going to be talking about Boogie Nights, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
We're staying in the 70s, but the one thing to know about the soundtrack for Boogie Nights is there's 2 of them. So there's like they both have stars. One of them is black and the other one is red. So I'm just going to talk about volume 1, but volume 1 and 2 are both just so good, especially if you're a 70s sort of / 80s baby. Like if you love, to me, the 70s is probably the best era of music, maybe from like 68 to like 79, 80. That's just the bulk of music that came out to me is just some of my favorites. So Paul Thomas Anderson obviously directed Boogie Nights, and he has done so many things. And he was able just to this is another guy like Wes Anderson, like what Mike Nichols did with The Graduate. He's able to take these old songs, put them in context of this movie. It's a pretty rough movie in a lot of ways, and make it so good. I also really got into ELO again, Electric Light Orchestra, because of Living Thing, which is at the very end of the movie. But ELO and Jeff Lynne and ELO, they have 100 hits, in my opinion.
A lot of songs jump out at me from that soundtrack. So many awesome ones. Fly, Robin, fly. And there's a Commodores track that's really awesome. There's some cool instrumental synth tracks that are on there.
Machine
and I think of the 2 volumes as one big thing, but
yeah.
So I can't remember which one it's on. But the Afternoon Delight is on there, I think, and just really some great tunes.
Vocal band, right?
Machine
Gun was the Commodores, and that's a instrumental that you have to listen to. All right, that's just so good.
It's funny watching bands from that time. I'm really not being critical, but like watching the Starland Vocal Band play like on YouTube, they seem to me, and I mean this with all due respect, they appear like someone that just won a contest. They look so average, like 30 something, maybe 20 something. They just look like completely regular people.
Well, these are one-hit wonders too.
Yeah,
so
one-hit wonders. Yeah.
However they formulate this hit, whatever stars align to get these guys in a studio. There's a lot. I'm very interested in the one-hit, 2-hit wonder, but they're certainly one of them. I tell you, the Bay City Rollers have
Yeah.
the hit Saturday Night, which is a
Yeah.
70s toe tapper, and like then they're just gone. Like there's a lot in there that I think they wore all plaid. They all had their little gimmicks. Yeah, these one-hit wonders though, there's something to be said. Speaking of non-one-hit wonders, you have God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, like the
Yeah.
legendary Beach Boys. But even some of these Lonely Boy is another one I think is on volume 2, and I don't even know who sings that, but that is a one hit, I believe, or 2 hit. Marvin Gaye, rest in peace. His mastery and talent are undeniable. So good. Okay, I'm going to go to the 2004 movie by someone we've been talking about, which is Wes Anderson's The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
So let me come out of the closet. Wes Anderson, his films, I do enjoy them, but I feel like I'm just supposed to like them, but I get it, but at the same time, there's some things I don't get. I want to like them more than I really do.
Don't ever let anyone tell you should like something. You tell them, shut up. I don't like Wes Anderson movies.
Exactly. I'm going to tell my 5-year-old daughter that tomorrow. Thank you.
So you don't like Rushmore, Dad?
I don't like.
So for me, this one was a difficult one because I needed to pick a Wes Anderson soundtrack. They're all really, really good. Rushmore is a really good soundtrack.
Ladies and gentlemen, I heard the soundtrack for the first time today, and I thought it sounded great. Really cool tunes. There's some remakes like Life on Mars from David Bowie, but it's someone else doing it.
And the original too. So
I didn't know that.
Okay, so you can't talk about the Wes Anderson soundtracks without Mark Mothersbaugh, who of course has done so many beautiful themes. He was in Devo, but he's had such a career as a wonderful songwriter. So anything with Mark Mothersbaugh in it, I'm all on board. So he has really crafted some fun stuff that goes along with Steve Zissou and his crew, because they're obviously, it's sort of like Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of this production footage that they're putting music to. So all that stuff's great.
I really liked, we call them Pirates Out Here.
There's 20 tracks. Everything I can't find a bad David Bowie song. So I love Bowie, and this was again revitalized my interest in all of his songs. I mentioned earlier, but you just got to listen to the Royal Tenenbaums soundtrack's good. Darjeeling Limited is good. You can tell Anderson's what he loves. And again, you got a Bill Murray movie. It's not for everybody, certainly. It might deserve a double. That's the one thing about any kind of movies like this, Candler, is like, this is a double viewer. You got to watch it twice maybe. And after that, it might not be for you.
I enjoyed Rushmore. I can't remember if I've seen Life Aquatic or not.
He's obviously so talented as a filmmaker. He loves it. You can tell he loves it. The way he crafts shots, the symmetry, production design, and costume design, all the little details, to me, make it so much fun to enter the world that he has created for the actors and for the audience.
And if nothing else, Brian, he gets incredible people, actors.
Oh, yeah, completely. Is this it? This is number 5.
I think so, yeah.
This is the Karate Kid Part 1 soundtrack.
Try to be best, because you're only a man, and a man's got to learn to take it. You're the best around. Awesome. No one's going to
So,
soundtrack.
Thank you. And so I will say this. There's 2 soundtracks that need to be heard. So you have the pop soundtrack with, of course, You're the Best by Joe Esposito. But you also have the
Cruel Summer.
Oh, yeah.
She's gone, leaving me here on my own. It's a crew.
Is that Bananarama? Bananarama. Not that's their best song.
What about She's Got It? Yeah, baby, she's got it. That's not from Karate Kid, though.
A remake. Venus, probably next 2 years. So
confession, Brian, when I heard you were doing Karate Kid today, I was all excited because I'd get to do Peter Cetera. but
Oh,
that's
I'm
in
sorry.
Karate Kid 2.
Part two. So yeah, part two, and I tell you what, that's a hit.
I am a man. He's weird to me.
If
I
you-
am a man who will fight for your honor. Peter Cetera is.
If you like 80s ballads, then Karate Kid Part 2 and Peter Cetera for you. If you like, and heck, let's talk about Chicago for a second. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, Chicago is so good, and they changed so much once Cetera left, but they've got hits as well, and he's great.
But would he be able to have a normal conversation with? I feel like we would think he was weird.
I don't know. I
just feel like he was like, "Hello, Brian." I feel like he would do this the whole time.
Possibly, but I would just say, "Nice to meet you." Is there a way you could sing "Glory of Love"?
Yeah.
Karate Kid Part 2. A few of these, like "Bop Bop on the Beach" is ridiculous by Jan and Dean. The Moment of Truth is also, it feels a little bit like You're the Best. And let me tell you something, Bill Conti's got his name all over this album. Conti obviously did the Rocky saga. John G. Alvinson obviously directed Karate Kid Part 1 and also directed Rocky and Rocky 5. Like I said before, there's two soundtracks. You have the Bill Conti instrumental, but you also have Zamfir's pan flute.
What?
And so, yeah.
I used to love watching the Zamfir pan flute commercials. Used to love it. Remember the Zamfir? Master of the pan flute.
I don't know anybody else who plays it, but that guy. So you can't really have Karate Kid without Zamfir and the pan flute. So, talking a little bit about Daniel's son training by himself after Miyagi kind of goes under for a few days. All that, I think it's called Training Hard. I mean, it's not a very long song, but that is something to type in and listen to. So you have Conti's soundtrack, which really is a lot of the like young heart stuff. Like there's all kinds of stuff on here, but you have Feel the Night. I'm sorry. So Feel the Night, like da na na da na 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 na, and that's like when obviously Daniel's son gets this yellow old timey car and Allie pretends that she likes it. So so they can drive around in a big yellow car.
I didn't realize that Zamfir was connected. It makes sense, but I never put two and two together. I even listened to the soundtrack today and didn't even think, oh, wait, that's Zamfir. Master of the pan flute.
Master. I like how you say it, too. We say it differently, and I like that.
Master of the pan flute.
No, Zamfir. How do you say it?
I thought it was Zamfir.
It probably sounds much better than the way I'm Zamfir.
Zamfir. Excellent. Well, I'm going to be listening to all those, especially Life Aquatic, because that had some cool tracks on there.
Perfect.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Candler Budd.
I'm Buford Mad Dog Tannen.
And this is Grab the Remote.